This is Chris. I have seen every episode of Star Trek, the original series, like 17 times.
And this is Derek, and I've seen every episode of Star Trek one time.
And we are watching Journey to Babel, kind of a special jump out of order for this week. So you ready to go?
Yes, I am.
3, 2, 1, engage. So, for those of you who may be listening to this in the future, 2 days ago, Leonard Nimoy passed away, the guy who played Spock.
Yeah, at 83. 83 is a good age.
Yeah, so he's not the first Star Trek guy to have passed away. I mean, DeForest Kelley here, he's passed away.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
that. Yeah, that was when I was a kid. Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, he passed away in season 2 or season 3 of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Okay.
And Majel Barrett, who played Christine Chapel in Number 1 and does the computer voice for TNG and a couple other things. He passed away a couple years ago.
Yeah, I did see like a picture, I think it was on Tumblr Imager, where you just saw William Shatner in kind of like the briefing room, and it was just him. There was no one else. Or apparently all the people that are normally in the briefing room are no longer with us, is the implication?
Yeah, a lot of people had a lot of different responses to how Nimoy died. Obviously, Star Trek's really important. His performance in Star Trek is great. I chose this because I think this is one of his best pieces.
Oh, it's definitely a Spock episode. You get a lot of backstory. You get kind of some insight into his character, his personality, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, but to define him and to have like a picture of Star Trek characters and the ones who died being grayed out and the ones who are in colors alive it's a little ghoulish for me personally.
Okay. Look at this, McCoy. Like, McCoy, you saying you can't do the Vulcan salute? It is decidedly easy.
I have always been baffled by the people who cannot do that. Yeah. Nimoy was, as I understand it, first generation America. He was Jewish, and that was something that he had seen Jewish priests do as a kid.
Okay.
Symbol as part of their ceremonies.
Okay. I didn't know that. So, when I first saw this dude show up, I remembered he's from the Romulan episode.
Yeah, we just watched him in that.
Yeah, he was the Romulan bad guy. Now he's Spock's father. That seems very not insightful,
economical,
not culpable. No, well, I was thinking that it implies that Spock is a villain somewhat. But I definitely get it's economical. Yeah, you put on the pointy ears before. How'd you feel being Spock's father?
Yeah. He plays a Cleon in the original motion picture, but like there's very little acting associated with that. And he plays Sarek in I think the 3rd, 4th, and 6th movies, and he does 2 episodes of Next Generation.
Okay.
So
I'm digging the Class A Enterprise emblem. It's very colorful and geometric.
Oh, I think those are medals.
Okay,
they just happen to look like the Enterprise insignia on Spock, because Kirk's looks more like a starburst.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's like the military, you get to choose what you put on your Class A's, and obviously you put your best and brightest medals on, and you can decide to kind of get rid of some others that don't really matter.
I guess if you have a lot of them, I never had that problem, but
yeah, me either.
So, I've never known anyone who just, if you're like an admiral with a whole chest full of it, sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you put 20 years, you start picking what your Class A's look like at some point, I'm sure. Especially if you're an officer, because you have to outshine the enlisted, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I don't know if there are enlisted people in Star Trek. There are crewmen in jumpsuits.
When I saw like the whole security platoon like ready to kind of like the detachment ready to kind of go greet the ambassadors, I'm like, oh, these guys are gonna die, aren't they? It's gonna be a massive explosion, isn't there?
Totally do a Padme thing. Give a fake ambassador Sarek.
Yeah.
So.
This is the another interesting thing about this episode was I was wondering about about the cargo, like if the Enterprise had some sort of like cargo bay. There's an episode when we're talking about like Mudd's women, like when they're talking about like, we can't lock onto them. It's like, the thought crossed my mind: would they have enough space to teleport the entire ship, and could they? I didn't have the answer to that until I saw this. I was like, oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's a shuttle bay. They do have cargo bays that are kind of small. TNG has a cargo bay set.
Okay.
They couldn't transport the whole thing on. They just don't make transporters that big.
So. Like, this is such a human thing. Like, you don't call, you don't write. Like the mom, like making you feel guilty for not showing up. Yeah, like, yeah, but Dad's a dick, so that's why.
Yeah, and she is the perfect. She just nails this. This actress.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She was best known for a role, I think, on Father Knows Best. I think she made the mom or something. But she returns as Amanda in Star Trek 4. She's just great with this. This entire dynamic is great. Yeah,
and it's they kind of gang up on her at the end, and she just kind of takes it in stride. And what I find hilarious is that totally happens when you get older. Like when, when your dad's like, "Mom's just wacky today." Like, yeah, she is. And she's like, "Oh, you boys."
But it's Sarek and Spock working together, so I don't see any context in which she would be genuinely unhappy about that.
Of course. But even just kind of more mundane, like less interactions where there's less kind of animosity. That's still just such a motherly gesture. Like, oh, I'm still happy that my boys are just my boys still. And she reminds me much of my grandmother. Just very motherly, very kind. Wants all the good things, none of the bad things, etc., etc.
No.
Okay.
It bears mentioning that Spock, this series got a lot of fan mail, a lot of vocal fans. To some degree necessary to keep it on the air. Spock got the most of it. Spock is a really popular character. But after this episode was written by DC Fontana. Like we talked a little bit earlier about female writers. Yep. She wrote this. There were a couple revisions, but it basically went to screen as she wrote it. And after this, Sarek got a ridiculous amount of fan mail.
Yeah, man. Like, this is a good episode. This is a straight up good episode.
Yeah. And here's we get to take the Starfleet as a military versus Starfleet as an exploratory mission versus Starfleet as a taxi service, which I assume you were about to ask.
That's
just so easy to pigeonhole it.
What do you do? It just reminds me of the episode of Futurama. It's like, power of the Starship, Kip. Let's show them what a runaway military budget can do. And it's like, well, I don't know if you're a military organization, but you certainly have a runaway budget. You just do everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, if you have a ship like this and it has to fulfill so many roles, it's probably because you don't have many of them. And that's...
So does that change? Like, I mean, I understood Enterprise to be the name, but I've also heard it described as a class of ship as well. Is that true, or?
This
a funny story.
This is going to take a minute, so feel free to interrupt at any time. The Enterprise is one of 12 Constitution-class starships. You'll see some of the other ones later on. They're tinier ships, just spaceships. They call these specifically a starship. It's a deluxe, top-of-the-line ship.
Okay.
So there are 12 of those. It gets refitted. Spoilers, it gets blown up. Oh. And then they replace it with the completely identical Enterprise A, which is an Enterprise class.
Oh, okay. So there is an Enterprise class of which this USS Enterprise is not one at the moment.
Correct.
That's nice and confusing, isn't it?
And that Enterprise, the Enterprise A, is actually a hastily renamed Yorktown, which it was going to be the USS Yorktown of the Enterprise class. But they're like, wait, what just happened? Oh, no, we're going to rename it the Enterprise A and give it back to Kirk and crew.
Those wacky rambunctious types.
Yeah.
This is it looks like...
these are Tellarites. You've met Tellarites before.
Yes, so I'm glad you brought that out. I just wanted to mention, like, the spread looks like it was put on by Gushers. I think Gushers is catering this event.
They were. They got out of the drug business back in Mudd's Women, and now they're catering for events.
This is all flavored, colored gelatin. Enjoy. Yeah. So the Tellurite, I have seen Tellurites before, and my first impression of the Tellurite is like, oh, this is like it's a pretty dumb alien-looking costume.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
But what I love this class, but there's something that I noticed about them in this episode is that how they achieve the dark look of their eyes is that they slope it down. And so, like, I don't think he's ever supposed to lift his chin. Like, if he keeps his chin level, then his eyes the whole time, as a practical effect, look as if they're just blackless pupils. And that is super clever. Like, that is, I saw that, I'm like, whoa, that's pretty ingenious. I mean, your actor f***ed it up, but still. That was just a brilliant idea. And, when I noticed that, I got a new appreciation. Oh, look at the guy. Look at the guy in the pigtails in the background with a goatee. Like, between McCoy and Mom.
I was looking at the lady on the right. I was making fun of them for being Gaga-ites earlier. But...
See, man. And it's so small, but it was totally a dude with a goatee and a wig.
I tried to see it. I could not see it. But I like this story because you're not sure if she's throwing Spock under the bus and just making stuff up, or if Spock is just making stuff up to defend himself.
I mean, it could definitely be like I mean, she's been in Vulcan culture for a minute. So, it could definitely, she's playing like many layers of games here, like knowing that a teddy bear is actually a very dangerous creature and knowing that humans would kind of jack with him. Yeah. She could have been setting up McCoy to take the fall here.
You would hope so. I did see your beard guy.
That's good mothering. Yeah. Look, there he is. Oh.
I got him.
Oh, okay.
And you can see Andorians here, too. Yeah. And it becomes canon later that the Andorians, the Tellurites, the Vulcans, and the humans are the four fundamental Federation races.
Okay, cool.
Hey, Chekhov! I like their dress shirts. No Sulu, though.
Yeah. I was like, what the hell? Where's Sulu?
He's busy. He does other stuff.
I don't think I saw him in this episode. Have we seen him yet?
No, he's not in this episode.
Oh, okay.
He, not Walter Koenig. George Takei.
Yeah.
He does other stuff. So they're making World War II movies right now. They need Japanese actors.
Oh, so. Yeah. That's true. So. He's definitely a good actor, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I am kind of digging the Class A's. We see later some weird variant of the Class A's that looks like a blouse, like a blouse of some kind, that I really don't get other than to show off Kirk's figure. I feel like that's the only motivation of this blouse.
Well, what of this number that Sarek is rocking?
Yeah, it definitely looks kind of like, I feel like he got it from the bicycle playing cards catalog.
Yeah.
It's like the back of that card.
Yeah, he's definitely like the Jack of Spades or something. I can see that.
Yeah, he's some sort of spades.
Got back from a face cards convention.
I do wonder about the mother. Like, yes, he married her, but she agreed to it, and so there's the nature of the relationship is just very interesting to me.
I honestly feel a lot of the nuances. There are a lot of emotional decisions coming from Vulcans in this episode.
Yeah.
And I think she accepts both the pretense and the reality underneath it.
I get this impression that she was like an anthropologist.
Oh.
Yeah. I get the impression that she was an anthropologist, that at some point in time she was studying Vulcan culture and just kind of got immersed in it, like some sort of Japanophile. She's a Vulcanophile.
Yeah, I think that really diminishes
Does it?
her choice, where she's interested in the culture and therefore she becomes interested in a person, like a crappy anime fan who just wants to have a Japanese girlfriend.
I guess the way I look at my perception is Vulcan culture is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And it's hard for humans to kind of maneuver in. And so to want to be able to do that, so much so that you're married to a guy, you have to have that kind of knowledge to be able to catch all the subtleties without going insane. And I think to have that level of knowledge, you would have to be, or it makes sense that you were on some level interested about it before you married a person. But yeah, I can see how, like, oh, I don't actually love him. I just, he's an expression of my volcanophileness. Like, yeah, that is kind of diminishing for sure. What's with his 3 painted nails? It's so weird.
It's fashion, man, fashion.
Is this a guy or a girl Tellarite? Do we know?
I don't know. I assume male, but no telling. Does it matter? Does it change the story at all?
I was just curious. I was curious about the fingernails. I just, we're all decorating. We're all in our class A's here.
Yeah.
So I was just curious about the fingernails.
That's fair.
I do like how much he dodges. I like how much Sarek dodges, like the very forward advances of the Tellurite.
Mm-hmm. And it's its own sort of diplomacy, what the Tellurites are doing, with the exception of the physical assault.
Yeah, well, I mean, that may be part of their. I mean, if you look at some of Japan or Britain council meetings, it's come to blows every once in a while. Mm-hmm. So,
I also like this episode. It ties into the ship outside. Like, it gives us exposition for that attack that comes up later.
Yeah. Yeah.
In addition to telling us a little bit about Sarek and filling out the background of this entire conference. It's really
I mean,
economical.
I like just that it fills out. He's all hot and bothered. I feel like it also gives some backstory to just the Enterprise and the Starfleet's role in the larger Federation, which I find interesting as well. Like I find that a lot of season 1 doesn't really give you that.
Right. I'm not a big fan of canon. I am a big fan of context, though.
Okay.
And trying to serve one of those masters and not the other is a difficult thing.
Did you just tell him not to threaten? Like, threaten is a human emotion, but you just threatened him very subtly? Like, that seems what happened here.
Yeah, no, Sarah completely burned that guy. That was...
You smashed that burn, sir?
Top-level sassiness.
That's where Spock gets his sassiness from.
Yeah. Some crazy trash talking.
Kirk with his shirt off, about to put his blouse.
No, the plot has thickened.
Yes. And it's the ambassador. Quick, focus!
Dun, dun,
No, get closer! Closer!
Yeah.
McCoy with his little, battery-powered scanner device.
It's good. It's fun.
It's pretty good.
I like that his neck wasn't just broken. It was broken by a super expert.
Yes. A super expert that has its own characteristics of efficiency and mercy.
Yeah. He can barely tell a Vulcan heart from a liver, but this Tellarite, oh yeah.
Yeah, he knows what's up.
This creature wasn't just destroyed, it was sent to exile immediately from the graveyard.
In ancient times. I do like how I don't know if he's thinking about this question, if this question is something that Spock can answer. I mean, he knows that he can answer it, but I don't know if he that hesitation. I'm wondering if Captain Kirk is hesitant to have this conversation because he knows it's going to be about his dad.
Well, you mentioned Kirk poking things with sticks. He definitely does that. Yes. When he asks Spock to come over and be like, hey, explain to your dad these computer circuits work. Yeah. How much do you hate each other? How much do you hate each other? Ooh, quite a bit, actually.
I never got to... Yeah, that is a good point. Because Kirk... that is such a Kirk thing to do, to say, I know that he's not a straight answer, so I'm going to get my answer from circumstantial evidence.
Yeah.
And use that evidence in a very sly manner later.
You also note that they've set up Sarek's illness because he took the pill.
Yep.
Back in the thing room.
Did he take it with alcohol? I kind of feel it's weird. You shouldn't take medicine with alcohol unless it's a Vulcan.
Yeah, well, Vulcans don't drink alcohol as a matter of course, but hey, that was the same container they keep the Saurian brandy in.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. So.
Maybe they have O'Doul's space Saurian brandy.
For the discerning Vulcan.
Yeah.
What I find is interesting here is they showcase how logical Vulcans can be they can go through the mental exercise of their own accusation dispassionately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's logically he's
the
leading suspect. He's like, oh yeah, it makes sense that you would think that I'm the suspect. Like, I find it patently ridiculous that humans can't do this. But,
and like, oh wow. And I mean that is it's very interesting, because there is definitely a part of me that wishes people were more logical or just were more had the ability to put their emotions on a shelf and think things through before they reintroduce emotions back into the equation. But at the same time, you definitely see how pure logic can get you to some like hairy situations that are just silly. Like what you think Scotty can't man this ship? Like what the hell, man? That's he's one of the core four. This dude knows what's up. He can captain the ship.
They do a good job of showing Kirk and Kirk's unique tactical ability to solve that problem.
Yep.
I think they effectively show that. So they don't kind of throw Spock under the bus there, but the question is Spock tightening up on the logic and the religious thing because he wants to emotionally help his dad? So he goes, wait, this is an emotion. Maybe I should not do that. And then he finds a reason not to.
Right. And latches onto it.
Yeah, and then that's also to get his dad's approval.
Right.
For the same thing.
Right, like it's almost as if he's constructing an avatar of his father that once he passes, that avatar will have approved of his decisions.
Well, his dad, while alive, kind of approved of it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's because logic isn't absolute. You perform logical actions to get things from premises, and I don't always approve of how they portray logic in this. There's an episode in the first season that we're going to watch called the Galileo 7. Which is an exceptionally good Spock episode. I kind of wanted to watch that, but there wasn't as much acting there. Okay. And that covers how logic isn't always the best answer.
Man, this is like setting the stage for when he burns Uhura later. Like he's just straight up Kurt with her.
Here, he's pretty rough.
Oh, I thought it was maybe next one. Maybe this is the one I'm thinking of. He tells her to do her job. I'm like, dang man, this is the first time. This is the first time for me.
And we see a lot of episodes where he does that, and later he's like, you know what, that was a bit far. I'm going to dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think he apologizes for that one, though.
He does not.
Yeah. Which, I mean, there's a lot of pressure, no doubt. I mean, we get a murder, we get attempted murder, we have Federation and attacking aliens, so I get it. But still, it's it does somewhat go against the nature of, yep, here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it somewhat goes against his character, I feel.
And she's a full-on lieutenant, I would remind you. Chekhov is an ensign. So it's also infuriating when he leaves the bridge for 5 minutes before Scotty comes up that he tells Chekhov to take the con instead of Uhura.
Yeah, that is a good point, because, like, I wouldn't trust an ensign to dust my captain's chair.
It's like not Chekhov. If I did have a time machine, I would probably go back to the set that day and just pull out a gun and just be like, no, make Uhura do it.
Or else. I don't give a damn about the censors.
Give a damn about the timeline. Put her in the chair. And you get Nurse Chapel again doing stuff.
Really? Is there a... When do we ever get, like, lower women's blouses? Like, I just... Like, don't get me wrong, like, the heterosexual side of me is attracted at the legs, and that's just something that I can observe in Vulcan, fashion. But it is, I'm like, man, really? You gotta make all these girls, like, wear all this short stuff? Like, come on, man. Like, give them a few inches, at least. Like, we're seeing, like, the bottoms of her butts here. Like, come on.
Yeah, not in this series. In the movies, everybody wears pants.
Okay, good.
Wait until you see the first movie before you say that.
Hold on, wait a minute. Before you approve.
You're gonna see the clothes from Star Trek: The Motion Picture and go, yeah, we need the short skirts back. And they change into the uniforms for the Wrath of Khan, and everything is great forever until TNG. And they bring back skirts in TNG. But I'll go into that later. It's a good thing. It's done well. So
this episode really brings to mind, like, what are Dr. McCoy's credentials? Like, I'm not certain of his ability to kind of do any kind of doctoring besides human doctoring, even that's somewhat suspect at times. It's like, oh, well, you need to take the edge off. Here, let's get drunk together. Like, hold on.
Like, he's okay, and like, he's competent, and he and Spock interplay well, and it's one of those circumstances where Spock isn't strictly better than everyone else at their jobs. So, but eventually he's got the mind that goes, hey, look, those parameters, we can make them work with the thing. And that's his contribution, is that perspective and willing to go the extra mile and put himself on the line.
Yeah.
So I like that, and it's really weird that this is just straight up exposition interplay, and people go, "What? No, that's crazy. That's impossible.
Are you mad, man?"
Yeah.
And I do kind of like how he talks about, like, his inexperience. But you're just like, well, hold on, are Vulcans very cagey? Like, do they not let people kind of examine their physiology, et cetera, et cetera? Or I mean, to me, if you know how to deal with, like, Tellarites and any other kind of alien, Vulcans would just be another one on that list.
Yeah, that's a good point. Star Trek is weirdly ignorant about species within the Federation, not just in terms of medical knowledge with McCoy, which you see a lot of, like, so much. But in
like,
terms
it's real doctor
cultures and things, Like, there's an episode where they introduce the Trill, which are beings who have little slugs in their belly that have the lifetimes of previous hosts. And the episode where they're introduced, they're members of the Federation. But they haven't told anyone about the slugs in their bellies. Like, no, we can't use the transporters. And they're like, but what? We use the transporters for everything. No, you can't do that. I'm like, okay, guy who's been in the Federation for 50 years. Okay, whatever. We accept your mysterious biology. Oh no, a medical problem. Who could have foreseen our lack of knowledge factoring into this?
We only had basic medical information.
Yeah, but there is actually Dr. Mbenga floating around here somewhere. He's relevant because in the 60s, having a black doctor just hanging around your starship is kind of a big deal. And he is apparently a specialist in Vulcan biology. He knows quite a bit about Vulcans. Okay. I'm guessing he's on vacation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely, he's given the whole Hippocratic Oath vibe here in this scene. And Spock's like, I don't care about your standards and practices. This is not a logical solution, et cetera, et cetera. And McCoy, I think, at the end, even though he doesn't agree, tacitly accepts. And I think that's like getting that little library card or the book card thing. Yeah. I think that's kind of supposed to convey, like, I tacitly accept this. And then we jump from that to this fight. It was so jarring to see this. Okay, it was really unexpected.
Hella in media res. But that scene right there, we just talked over that scene because it's a slow, talky exposition scene. Well executed and well written. But immediately the pace of the episode is brought back up.
Yeah. And dude, like, that drop kick was so bad. Like, did you just try to employ a wrestling move while in a legitimate fight? Like, what the hell, Kirk? What did they teach you in captaining school?
Just the basics, the pile driver, the
people's elbow.
The people's elbow.
Yeah, the tombstone pile driver, the basics.
Functional stuff. He got an A, though.
Yeah,
A for Andorian.
It's very obvious that he got an A in Space Judo, which is very similar to WWF wrestling.
The weird thing is, like, that, I don't know if that was all one shot, but a lot of that appeared to be Shatner himself.
Yeah.
So that wasn't... So then we get put back onto a sturdy boil, because we got the ship hanging around, hasn't done much yet, and We get the weird transmission, and now we have an all-out assault right after a murder.
Yeah, there are a lot of elements they're juggling in 45 minutes, and they do that really well for sure.
Yeah.
I still say that I would have liked at least like 10 seconds of build before jumping into that fight. Like just Kirk coming out and then like detecting something weird and then the fight. Like
he said a centimeter or so lower, it would have been right in the heart. I don't think McCoy knows where hearts
That's not
are.
True, McCoy. Damn it. Like watching this episode made me really question whether or not McCoy was the inspiration behind Zoidberg, because it seems very strong.
Well, everybody lies on the resume a little bit. That happens.
Humans, yeah, I know most of the organs, whatever.
Yeah. Vulcans, I got a coloring book from Denny's on Vulcan
If you think about it, McCoy is always there to highlight how much he doesn't know about alien physiology.
Yeah.
But Zoidberg knows, he's on a human vessel. He knows nothing about human physiology, which is just kind of the opposite, and it's
So Andorians, you see Andorian antenna change their position a lot over the years.
just
I like that Andorians also get their clothing from Skyrim,
which has not been invented yet, nor the technology. But yes, it's this weird kind of tunic that is in like chainmail that's not chainmail. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, they may have taken it from the set of an old-timey medieval thing. Yeah. I do like this because in Enterprise, the Vulcans and the Andorians really, they have like a history of violence and war with each other.
Okay.
So, and to have an Andorian here kind of work with the Vulcan and say, hey, maybe there's an emotional reason. Maybe there's not a logical reason for it. Yeah. Maybe together, you and I can solve this mystery.
Yeah.
Blue shirt and blue face working together.
Yeah. That is interesting to know, just because, it's, I always think it's interesting when people say, oh, it's like a cultural thing. All Vulcans do this. But then you see a Vulcan not do that. It's like, yes, because there's Vulcan culture, and then there's the individual Vulcan with all of its own experiences, etc.
Right. Which is, it's very hard to do the way Vulcans are written. Mm-hmm. The only other Vulcan that really gets front and center outside of Sarek and Spock is Tuvok in Voyager. It's not a lot of that.
I like this kind of like, Mom, just respect my opinion, please. It's part of my job. I took an oath. Woman.
It's a good scene. And she showed up and she thought it was a comedy. And she's like, oh, this was really serious. I guess I better button down. Put on my nice silvery wig.
Yeah. With the weird
I don't even know how that works on Vulcan. It's got like crazy gravity. Like, I will accept that she can get around on Vulcan somehow. But that hair, I do not. I reject it.
Maybe this hair is a function of not being on Vulcan gravity. Like, maybe it's normally just like down.
Yeah.
But because it's no longer subject to the gravity, it's just all kind of in a weird configuration.
Yeah. We are completely going over this. It's really intense scene.
Well, I think this is interesting because it is a very parental thing to do, to kind of use the assets available to them to kind of get what they want. And so if your son has any sort of pull, it's very common, or I would at least think, being from South Louisiana, a very corrupt state, that some parent would say, hey, do this thing I want because I'm your mom, or do this thing I want because we're related. And Spock's like, nope. Took an oath. Sucks to be you. Get out.
Fundamentally, a society in which its members will choose to benefit their family over the whole is not a sustainable society.
Oh, totally.
So, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one.
Yep.
And Spock knows this, and I think Amanda knows it as well. She obviously would weight Scotty's experience more than anyone else in this scenario. But,
yeah, and we're showcasing the human side, like where before we kind of showcased how rational the replicants are, we're now kind of taken to the other extreme of how emotional humans can be. I don't know if I want to say overprotective mother, but the mother who just cares too much.
Yeah.
Of her boys.
And could she have lived with herself if they hadn't had this conversation? If she hadn't done everything in her power to save Sarek's life?
Right. Yeah, and that's another thing too. Like when you put your back against the wall, you're not always thinking straight, and you're pulling all the strings you can to kind of lift yourself up or remedy the situation. You think to go so as far as to slap your son who has identity issues.
The doors in Star Trek are telepathic. Yes, that's the answer to your question.
Yeah. He's behind the door and it's not opening. Oh man, I never caught that. That is why wouldn't that door open? How does it know?
It knows, Derek.
We have a dramatic sense. We know when to open and when to close.
It knows, Derek. It's enough that the door knows.
Everyone says that they want the teleporter, they want lithium crystals, et cetera, et cetera. I want telepathic doors. I definitely agree with this. This is a doable technology. You can use kind of computer vision and a little bit of machine learning to determine whether or not a door should open.
Imagine a door that would slam itself when you run out.
Yeah. You never have to worry about that inopportune slam, like missing it, and then you just let the impact of an issue just kind of fade away. No, that door always knows. It's always on cue. It's always ready to perform.
You're not sure if the captain's awake or asleep, but you have news of slightly elevated importance. So you go up the door, and it just goes a little bit. And you're like, "Are you up, Captain?" Through the crack, and he's like, "No,
I want to watch that episode. I want to watch the episode where the doors become self-aware. They start running the ship."
I say I don't really care about episodes based on technology, but I would love to see that episode.
Me too. It is kind of weird. Like I do question McCoy's bandaging like Dr. Kirk and what looks like a glittery two-top. I'm like, no, the injury is on his back. Just bandage the back, McCoy. It's okay.
I hate to say it, but Jim Kirk may be a better actor than William Shatner somehow. I don't know how it's possible, but it does seem like.
Yeah, like I do like how it's like, hey, look, this is James T. Kirk. I'm being cavalier about this whole situation. You know about this. You know me, Spock. You know how this works.
Yeah. Chekhov, not Sulu. Mind your station.
Like, oh look, he's giving captains. All right, cool. I can leave. No big deal. And he's like, ooh. All right, I gotta rest. Gotta rest on here. It really hurts.
Yeah. And then, of course, just the perfectly timed.
Yes.
Nope. It's gonna happen now. Like, god damn it.
He's like, I sit in the captain chair. That means everything's getting escalated. I do like how he's just like, yeah, well, whatever. Time to be duty bound.
Yeah.
No one really trusts Scotty to the helm. Like, what's the problem?
Well, they do. He just doesn't have as much experience as Kirk.
Well, because they don't trust him. It's like they need to give this dude, a few shots for these kind of situations.
Well, if he was good enough to be a starship commander, he'd probably be a starship commander, or on his way up to it. But he's an engineer who knows a few things about command. We'll see him. We'll see him in command. He'll do fine at it.
So I really I enjoy this medical scene just because it kind of highlights the whole yes, we're doing heart surgery, but we're not doing heart surgery the way you know.
Yeah.
I like to imagine that he's playing kind of like Heart Surgeon Simulator right now. It's like just this very cartoony interface where he's trying to juggle two hearts.
The little thing is obviously a cheat, but they have them in the Next Generation too. It's a little shinier, but basically it just lets you, one, cover up the body so you don't have to do a lot of makeup for it, and then two, insert a graphic that shows the action.
So cavalier.
All
right, frisk him, Ensign. All right. A very slow but effective maneuver that's disarmed me. All right, whatever. Boom.
Yeah.
Push the button. All right, he's done.
It's like,
make your report.
I was expecting that guy to look back at the director and be like, do I shoot him now?
Yeah. When did it happen? Let's take it out, right? I wonder if they have a guy that his his job is to say fire or like draw or this is when you have to. This is when it's actually firing the laser, so you can react accordingly.
Yeah, I know that for sounds and stuff, like they'll put, I think, interstitial sounds in the set that they can filter out later.
Okay.
I don't know if that's always necessary, though. Here's the first of many times Chekhov takes Spock's
Is he like
station
just like a really smart ensign? Like, is he just... I mean, he seems to be like a little Kirk, jumping into Spock's situation.
He did a lot of different stuff. I know in the movies he ends up being chief of security.
Okay.
But until that point, he kind of does whatever needs to be done.
Okay.
And again, I think the only reason he was asked to take the helm was because he was the only named character that wasn't a black woman. So that was...
Yeah.
I don't think it's a specific reflection on Chekhov.
Yeah.
No one's like, Chekhov, boy, genius. He was just put there because the Beatles were a hit for season 2.
That dude's haircut.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why he's there, man. He's all right. He's kind of cute. That worked for stuff. That was one of the angles they were playing with that character. So
got sweat on the brow. Doesn't know what's going on.
And obviously, the ship is completely redone. Like, I remember specifically that effect being incredibly disappointing. That thing with the phasers tracing across the screen. No, that's remastered. That is definitely
So
remastered.
How did they achieve that before? Was it just this box that's floating across the screen, you just understood that it's being fired upon? Or?
I just had a brain aneurysm, so I couldn't really tell you. I was just incredibly dissatisfied with the visuals.
Oh.
So. Like that Amanda.
I do like this little interaction where he says, "Hey, look, go radio engineering and give us priority."
Yeah.
I think that's it gives you kind of this context of we're all on a ship that works together. So go put us in the queue for more power because I'm in surgery.
Yeah. And that I like that as well. It makes everything more organic. It shows you that it's not just the bridge shaking whenever they're in attack. It actually shows that things are going offline. Power needs to be reallocated.
Right.
People need to communicate with each other in this organism to get things done.
Yeah, like everything to get that happy ending at the end. There so many moving parts have to come together, and you get a sense of that for sure.
Yeah, and that all of those moving parts come together. That you do get a sense of that. Is a tribute to this episode and how well constructed it is.
So this is a very interesting move. It's like I'm going to take the spy, I'm going to put him on the bridge so he can see my handling of his compatriots.
And are you happy they have security there?
I'm at least satisfied that security is looking at him. Like they're just not taking his eyes off him at the very least, which is, I guess, tolerable. I mean, he's not in handcuffs. He could strangle Kirk right now. Obviously, Kirk's in pain. Like, what the hell, man? But
I like that he doesn't just exposit and confess and
yes, that was so good. And then there's that kind of interplay. It's like, what are you doing, Kirk? And he says he doesn't say find your own answers. He says something else. Oh, wants you to speculate. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. It also introduces the theory that you can surgically alter one alien to look like another.
Yeah, I thought that was. I didn't know that. That was interesting. I thought maybe it was some sort of. Like, I thought maybe their skin was like an exoskeleton. That's how his like antenna just cracked off. Mm-hmm. But then when we realized it was prosthetic, I'm like, interesting. Mm-hmm. He's like, now you don't know a thing.
Kirk likes doing that. Turn the tables. It's Kirk.
Yeah, poking stuff with sticks.
See?
Captaining 101.
You'll get to see a lot of people dress up as Romulans thanks to that cosmetic surgery. So. Oh, and Cleons too.
Okay.
Yeah, and a couple other things.
So, yeah, I think this was okay. I think even without the visual, they've built like this interplay lands well.
Mm-hmm. And again, he's also there to sort of be the the Troy of the episode, where he doesn't know what's going on, so he has to like say things aloud.
Right.
So he's like, you're luring him in. That's what's happening. That's what's happening, audience. They're luring them in.
Yeah. So everyone knows, because
it.
I don't know. I obviously don't know. I didn't read the script.
Yeah. So, of course, the external visuals would be a little more convincing if they could change the angle that they show the Enterprise on. And they show it out from the outside. If they could rotate the camera to make it look disabled, like it's drifting along its axis. Yeah, whatever. You know, I hate that they've remastered everything here anyway. So
yeah. And yeah, we can go in about the whole date cock thing. Anyway, I like how Captain Kirk, in typical Kirk fashion, like, hey, ask them if they want to surrender, we can help them out, and then boom, and he's like, whoa,
Yeah.
You monsters! Like, I kind of expected him to just give him some sort of verbal lashing, but it didn't come.
Yeah. Again, always willing to extend compassion, always willing to save lives.
Yep. I like that. I do like that a lot.
So, of course, lots of things hang on these next couple seconds. It's hard to believe this episode's like just about to wrap up because like the crisis has passed, but there's still so much. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I do like how towards the end of the episode, he how does he know it's a painless poison? Like, who died and said, yeah, it wasn't that bad. But secondly, they order an autopsy to get an idea of what race he was originally before he had the kind of cosmetic surgery to be this spy, which I thought, I don't think it lands. Like, I don't think you really get that unless you kind of dig a little bit, but that was very, Chekhov thing.
Uhura's even standing up already.
He's like, I'm ready. Put me in the game, coach.
The hell you mean have Chekhov?
Yeah, fuck Chekhov. I'll tell Chekhov to get out because I'm a lieutenant. Now what?
You know, that's canon. That's what happened.
Chekhov, get out of that chair. What are you doing, you idiot? Only males can send the captain to the chair. Yeah. Get up.
Yeah, Kirk brings the rest of the party up to speed.
Yeah, I also kind of expected Spock to be a little bit more indignant about being tricked, but or at least to just mention it. But I don't remember them mentioning it.
They never swapped out. Actually, Kirk did take command.
Yeah, and Spock should have at least chastised the irrational course that Kirk took, as he often does, but I guess he's too busy having his dad moment.
Yeah. That's one of the things with characters, like there are moments where you want to explore different facets of the character.
Right.
In a scene or an interaction, you have to go, well, you can't just have them do all of the things.
Right.
You know, I'm logical. I also hate cats, and then also pizza.
It's like, what if a cat saved your life? Are you logical then?
And then bought you pizza, and like, I have to juggle all these things about my character, and like, you just pick the biggest one, you go for it. And obviously, Spock's biggest character thing right here is his relationship with his dad, and how that has healed slightly in this episode.
Like, I'm tired of you boys. Like, you've been living with Vulcans. It seems like you would be immune to this by now.
Well, usually.
The boys are making fun of Mama. Suck it. Here's the motherly smile. This is where we get it. Come on. Yeah, there it is.
There it is. Do a Vulcan makeout session.
Yeah. 2 fingers touching. That's so... Oh. Like, what? Please, you're being indecent.
All the time. They're just constantly doing a Vulcan makeout with that stuff.
Here he is. Like, I feel like how they're taking the Mickey out of he's such a mother hen right now. Like, it just, I do like it when he's kind of in mother hen mode.
Well, he's got to be. These people.
Well, yeah, a lot of people just want to say, no, I know stuff about my own physiology. And he's like, no, you don't. I'm the doctor, even though I don't know a lot of doctors.
I'm not a good doctor, damn it.
Yeah, but I'm a doctor. I have my degree from Space Mexico, so...
Yeah. And I know you don't like it when there's like the funny ending where people look at the camera and they laugh and stuff, but that's probably going to be the most palatable iteration of that you're going to see on Star Trek.
Yeah, it was a tolerable instance of that particular.
And you can see bits from the episodes coming up. Some of the episodes that have already passed.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It was a nice taste of season 2, appropriate given current situations.
Yeah. Oh, that guy, classic.
Yeah,
so,
will be missed for sure.
So I believe our next episode is actually going to be Miri this time.
Okay.
The next one we're going to shoot, I have no idea what the production, how they're going to be aired.
Okay.
But if you're hearing this right now, Miri, maybe, I don't know. I wish I could say more. I don't. All right. And that's it. 17-1 out.